Israel's become the first country to shun the UN Human Rights Council scrutiny session, saying the body has a strong bias against it. Last year, the Jewish state claimed it will no longer cooperate with the watchdog after an investigation into its settlements in the West Bank. Our Alexei Rashevsky takes a closer look at Israel's fencing-off policy.
If you were allowed to invest your money into Israel's construction companies, those supplying materials for defensive walls, you would have probably made a hefty profit. Government decisions suggest they will never run out of business.
We intend to erect a fence along the Golan Heights. We know that on the other side of our border with Syria today, the Syrian army has moved away, and in its place, global jihad forces have moved in. Therefore, we will defend this border against both infiltration and terrorism.
That would make a third defensive wall in less than 20 years, along with the one in Jerusalem and on the border with Egypt. Barriers with Lebanon and Jordan are also being discussed. All have the same justification: security reasons.
Israel built a concrete wall in the West Bank more than a decade ago to protect itself from Palestinian terrorism. Years on, not only it is still dividing the land and the people, but the opinions as well. Supporters of the defensive barrier point to a decreased number of attacks, while its opponents say that its existence in the first place is creating more grounds for instability.
Political writer Michael Warszawski believes the West Bank barrier may have been a temporary solution years ago, but it's no longer proving effective, just as the much-praised fence with the Sinai Peninsula that eventually failed to keep out African migrants. If building another turns Israel into a fortress, Warszawski says, then it will be a medieval one.
There are many holes in the wall. So if someone is really willing to harm, he can do it with or without the wall. And the last decision of the government show the craziness or the crazy philosophy which is behind it. To create a normality for our children, for our grandchildren, based on a fortress, completely surrounded by a wall or by a fence. We are going back to Middle Age with this philosophy of creating a normality behind a wall.
The wall-building business may seem profitable to some, but financial experts say constructing these barriers consumes a sizable chunk of the defense budget, as well as suffocating regional development.
East Jerusalem, which is part of the Palestinian state, part of the occupied territories, it was excluded by the wall, and now it became almost a ghetto. Some of it is part of the best agricultural land. They are drying the resources of East Jerusalem. The wall for us is a nightmare, and it is also very much damaging to the business environment.
The fence at the border with Egypt can be excused for being an international border. The Golan Heights, on the other hand, is only a ceasefire line left from the Israeli-Syrian warfare. So not only it would not protect Israel from any kind of modern weapon attack, but just like the wall in the West Bank, it could become another monument to the indefinite occupation of territory conquered by force. Alexei Rashevsky, RT, reporting from Israel.